Hello YouTube! Today I'm going to be sharing with you my 3 favorite bodybuilding exercises to develop a bigger chest. I think that growing your chest and chest training in general should not be complicated. You pick a movement you enjoy, like the dips, like the bench press, and you stick to it and progress. That is how you grow your chest. But if it were as simple as just doing bench press until you can press 1,000 pounds, we would all have gigantic chests. And alas, this is not the case. Why? Because you eventually run into 2 issues. The first one being that progression stalls or stops. Anyone who has trained presses knows that at some point, unless you're perma-bulking, your numbers are not going to go up anymore. Does this mean that it's impossible to grow after that? Absolutely not. What you need to do at this point is you need to diversify. You need to find other movements. Not only is this going to allow you to grow in different planes of motions to challenge the chest more, but you'll also find that it will help you break through the plateau of the bench. And then the second issue that this type of approach to bodybuilding also solves is injuries. If you bench for a while, if you do dips for a while, you're going to develop some shoulder pain, some elbow pain. Why? You're always moving the same way. So at some point, the body is going to start to complain. And here you have 2 options. Either you are pig-headed like I am, you keep pushing and you get hurt, or you take a step back and you think, okay, I really like bench press or dips. These are great movements and I've built a massive chest off of them, but I want to keep growing. So what do? Well, I'm going to take my best friend, my favorite lift, and I'm going to give it a rest. Instead, I'm going to get volume from other means while never neglecting my favorite press, my main press, but sort of splitting the apple in half. I'm going to dedicate more time to other movements. And this is exactly what I'm going to help you do. Today, I'm going to present you 3 movements that I think anyone can do to build a bigger chest, that are easy on the tendons, feed the chest directly, and on top of that, have very low technical ratings, meaning that you're not going to have to relearn an entire movement pattern. These are still presses and you can jump into them right away. And we're going to begin this with my favorite bench press variation, the spoto press. So what exactly is a spoto press? Well, there are many definitions out there, but they all agree on one thing. A spoto press is a bench press variation where you're going to pose the bar before it touches your chest. That way, you spend more time in the range of motion or the chest is maximally stretched, what some people refer to as time under tension. You see, I'm a big believer in pose bench because it allows you to stay more stable and tight as you explode back up, meaning that your shoulders stay level and you don't end up rebounding the bar of the chest. An issue I've had in the past is that with touch and go, I was able to bench more, so you would think it would correlate with the ability to develop a bigger chest. What I found is that my form was out of whack because with every explosion up, my form was deteriorating, my arc was dying, my chest was lowering itself, and I was starting to use more and more shoulders. And that led me to look for a variation that would prevent me from doing that. As I said, I started doing pose bench, but I also quickly realized that the issue with the proper pose bench is that when you pose, the chest is not engaged anymore. You are resting the bar on your chest. Even if you try to stay tight, it doesn't stop from the fact that the bar is literally resting on your body. So what is the alternative? Well, you do a bench press with a pose, but you don't touch your chest. You stop shy of it. And by shy, I mean this much, meaning that from an outside perspective, it looks like the bar is touching your chest, but it's actually not. And this makes all of the difference. Now you are staying tight because you're not rebounding back up immediately and using the momentum of the bar, but you're also getting the benefit of the chest spending more time again in a position where it is weakened. That is both going to tire the chest maximally while also preserving the health of the shoulders. Warning before I show the lift to you, this also means that you have a tendency to die on that exercise. What does it mean? It means that it's an exercise where all of your energy is depleted at once. You're going to get rep 7, rep 8, it's going to be relatively easy, and then rep 9 is going to be almost impossible. I usually don't like lifts like this, but for something like the spoto press, it makes sense. It's because the chest is what moves the bar. And since the bench press is a chest movement, if you don't have the ability to finish up a rep, the lift actually fulfilled its mission. The muscle is completely depleted of energy. But since you won't be able to get the bar back up, you need someone to do it for you. So absolutely get someone to assist you for that movement, please. And now let's see what it looks like. All right, so I'm using baby weight to show you guys the form and what you're supposed to do with the weight. So normal bench press, you descend into the negative as slow as you want. Stop, shy of the chest, explode back up. All right, and the goal is to try and maintain the pose maybe for 1 or 2 seconds. In this position here, and up, all right? What I don't want to see is this. All right, what I just did here is I cheated because I paused, then I cleared the last portion of the range of motion and explode back up immediately. What you really want with that lift is to make the chest the limiting factor. And you will find that if you do it properly, it's not the triceps that are going to prevent you from pressing the bar upwards, it's always your chest. You will always feel that lift here. Right there. This is where you're going to feel. And that's fine, that's what we want, because that's what the exercise was designed to do. So always keep in mind, right there, this is where you want to be. This is the striking range. This is where most of the money is being made. And don't let the form police fool you. You'll have people who will tell you that if you don't touch your chest, it doesn't count. This is not powerlifting, this is bodybuilding. Nothing magical happens when the bar touches your chest. The sternum is not an hypertrophy button. What is true, however, is that the closer you are to the chest, the more the chest works. This is why this is great. It's because you spend more time in that range of motion that you would if you just did a normal bench press. So I encourage everyone who likes the bench to try this variation for the hypertrophy option or accessory, then get back to me and tell me how it feels. As far as rep ranges go, never go lower than 6 reps on this. 8 to 10 is great, 6 to 10 is great, 8 to 12 is great as well. And now onto the second movement that, similarly to the spoto press, is going to humble you because it's going to force you to use less weight, less momentum, but also to recruit and fill the chest more. And that is the flies. Now, chest flies are old school as fuck, and I'm sure that you have heard 1,000 people tell you to do them for chest development. So you're maybe tired of it. I'm not going to offer anything new today. What I want to do is correct some misconceptions and push aside some of the bodybuilding dogma I've heard about. It is true that the chest fly is, in a sense, a form of chest isolation. But you must understand that it's impossible to truly isolate the chest, and that if you try, you're just going to create an abomination. What I mean by this is I see many people who use baby weight on chest flies because they've been told that the goal is to get more out of less weight. The issue is that they misinterpret this sentence. So what they do is they go for the form that makes the lift as hard as possible, meaning that they're going to extend the arm all the way and they're going to do their flies like this with minimal elbow flexion. Now, for those of you out there that espouse this form, I have a question for you. When you do your standing chest flies, do you do them with an arm fully extended? Do you do them like this? I personally have never seen anyone do that. Why? Because it's idiotic. Why would you make the lift harder mechanically when it's going to do nothing for chest? Understand that the only reason it's tougher to move the weight in a chest fly position when you're laying on a bench, when the arm is open like this, is because the distance between the dumbbell and the shoulder and the chest, the mover for the exercise, is greater. It does not increase stimulus or contraction. You're not getting more out of less weight. You're getting less out of less weight. Instead, what we want to do is get into a position more mechanically advantageous that is still going to recruit the chest, but not go with all of the issues. This open elbow position, as I said, makes the lift harder, makes it tougher to recruit the chest, makes it so that you lift less weight, so there's less stimulus for the chest. And on top of that, this is not an advantageous position for the shoulder to be in. You don't want to do that. So instead, what we'll do is you are going to have some elbow bend, but what we'll do is we'll create distance between the chest and the elbow by widening the rib cage and opening the chest as we are going through the exercise. So as you see, the elbow angle doesn't change. What changes is what I do with my chest, all right? And it's important that we consciously do this because it's possible that you're just going to end up doing a neutral grip press where you're going to do this. That's not a fly. We still want the flying motion, but see what I just did? We expand the chest, and this is what initiates the fly. We don't open the arms. You are a bird, yes, but you don't have to open your wings. So let's look at what this actually means when put on a bench. So this is what the movement should look like without weight. First off, you're going to puff up your chest. This does not mean arcing your back, although you can if it helps. The goal is to point the chest towards the ceiling and to make it higher than the head. This is of course just an image, but this is what we want to accomplish. So once you're in your puffed up position, the way we're going to do the chest fly is as I instructed. We're going to keep the elbows tight to the body. We're not going to open them like this. As we are going to descend, however, we are going to try and create some distance between the chest and the arm that holds the weight without going overboard and without going too deep. If you do your chest flies and you go here, that's plenty. You don't need to go deeper than this. Actually, the reason why people open the arm is the more open the arm is, the easier it is to go past the bench. I think, for my money, that if you get to a point where the weight is close to the chest, close enough to touch the chest or in line with the chest, you have accomplished your mission. The chest is maximally stretched. There is no point in going deeper. Case in point, look at the bench press. The bench press stops at the chest. You don't go deeper than the chest. Even a cambered bar is going to have you go slightly deeper, but we never go to a point where the hand is behind the shoulder joint. It makes no sense. So the same logic also applies to flies. And this is why I wanted to dispel the bodybuilding dogma around chest flies. I dog on powerlifters all the time because they associate their practice with things like the squat, and whenever you try to do squats for hypertrophy, they complain because you don't follow their guidelines. The issue is that their guidelines don't actually align with bodybuilding. Same with the chest fly. Just because this is a lighter movement does not mean you have to go with baby weight. Go with weights that push you further with a form that is going to be conducive to performance. And that's exactly what I'm going to show to you right now. So once we are in position with weights in our hands, we're going to initiate the descent the way I instructed again. So you're going to bend at the elbow. You're not going to open the shoulder. What you're going to open is the chest, like this. And this is where I'm going to stop, right? Back up. This is a proper chest fly. You can open the elbow in terms of rotation if it helps you fill the chest, but we want to keep it close to the body. Right? So as you see, my arm and my fist and the weight is still perpendicular with the ceiling. I have not opened my elbow. And this allows for maximal stretch of the chest because what is working right now is not the shoulder. The shoulder is safe and healthy in a position that allows the chest to take the brunt of the work. And as I initiate back up, what contracts to get the weight up, that I'm doing in slow motion right now, is the chest alone, all right? And then you can, if you want, squeeze at the top, but I also think that the squeeze is widely overrated for hypertrophy. What truly matters is this descent, the opening of the chest, and that stretch right there that you're going to rebound back up. Right there. And that feels, of course, tremendous. If a chest fly doesn't feel good, you are doing something wrong. This is a very comfortable motion that allows you to fill the entirety of the chest. And if there is any shoulder discomfort or elbow discomfort, you need to fix your form because that is not the point. Imagine getting hurt on a movement like the chest fly. Never let that happen ever. And this is why I said, by the way, that I think the people who do chest flies with an open elbow are shooting themselves in the foot twice. Not only they use less weight, but even with that little weight, they are still hesitant to go hard because they are afraid for their joints. This is a lift you can take to failure and beyond absolutely with no problem. So now that we've seen two movements done with tucked in elbows, you might start to wonder if opening your elbows for hypertrophy is a great sin. Maybe it's something you should always avoid. Maybe it's bad for the shoulders, maybe it's bad for the chest. It's not necessarily the case. It's just that there are certain motions, like the chest flies I just demonstrated, that are counterindicated because the goal of the lift, the stretching of the chest, doesn't align with the necessity to create more distance between the hand that holds the weight and the muscle that moves it. But there are some exceptions, and the next movement I'm going to show to you guys is one. I've spoken to you in the past about ring push-ups and how great they are. And recently I discovered a variation done with open elbows that I find gives tremendous stretch to the upper chest and the entire chest in general. Now, I personally think that chest training is also biased by bodybuilding in the sense that some people will tell you that the only way to train the upper chest is certain specific movements and that the bench press or the dips doesn't train it. That's nonsense. The entire chest works as a unit and you can develop your upper chest with horizontal presses. There's no problem with that. But if you can find a movement that you can do safely that is going to make you feel that upper chest more, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. And that's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate to you right now. So when people tell you that open elbow presses are dangerous, they often refer to things like the guillotine press that forces you again to, of course, have a position that has a lot of internal rotation of the shoulder because you're supposed to touch very high on the clavicle. And that naturally is going to peeve some people because it is true that this is not the safest position to be in for a shoulder when you initiate a pressing motion. On top of that, this also means that you're going to have to use less weight. And so it's also in line with what I said about the fly. Why would you do that to yourself? Why don't just do something in a safer position? Well, the counter-argument is that if you want to recruit the upper chest, you have to do open elbow position presses. I think that's bullshit, but if you do want to do that, I found a way to do with that position that allows you to quote-unquote touch very high without all of the issues associated with it. So as you understand, presses force you into what we call a Cornelian choice. Do you want to have your elbows tucked in and the shoulder in the safe position? But in that case, as you descend, you understand that you're going to be far away from the upper chest and the ability to touch the sternum or clavicles. Or do you want an open elbow position that allows you to touch much higher, but is not going to be as safe? Well, I think that the ring push-up sort of answers that choice because you get the best of both worlds. You get a lot of stretch, you allow the arms to open more, to create more distance between the arm and the shoulder so as to maximize the moment arm, but you don't lose on performance, or at least not as much as you would with free weight. And the most important part, you don't risk anything for the shoulders. And why exactly is that? Well, maybe some people in the comments are going to discuss, again, gravity or leverage or the way the joints function. For me, the answer is simple. It's because the hands are not fixated on a bar. That's the problem with free weights. If one joint is frozen, you understand that the one that is not frozen, the shoulder, is going to have to take the brunt of the rotation and the stress, and therefore it can create some issues. But with the ring push-up, you won't have that problem because the wrists are flexible. So let me demonstrate what I call the guillotine ring push-up. You're going to get into your position, but instead of tucking the elbows in, we're going to allow them to open, and our goal is going to have the hands that hold the ring touch the upper chest, just like this. Touch, and up. Touch, and up. Now the rules I described previously with the chest fly also applies here. As you can tell, my arms are still always perpendicular with the floor. I'm never allowing the arms to go in front of me like this, or I never allow the elbow to open like this. The elbow is still stacked. What creates the stretch of the chest is the opening of said chest in this position, all right? This is always the way to go about it. So let me show you a quote-unquote set so you can see what it looks like when I'm actually repping it out. Now I'm doing this pre-fatigue, and it's something I would recommend for anyone who's a little bit more advanced in chest training. But you also have the option of doing these with weights. You can weight them with a backpack or with any other means. And the rep range would be something like 10 to 12, 10 to 15, or as many reps as possible. Our goal would be to have every single rep look the same, and just have velocity change. It's okay if the reps slow down a bit, but don't allow the elbows to start tucking in. The goal is really to touch as high as possible. Now, the more extreme version of this, of course, would be to do them with a deficit to be able to go even deeper. Would I recommend it? Not really. As I said, I think that if you can get to a point where the hand that holds the ring or the weight touches the body, the shoulder, for example, or the sternum, I think you're good. I think you got most of the stretch. Anything beyond that could be tendon stretch, which we don't necessarily want. So in terms of visual, once you're here and you're at the bottom here, and your chest quite literally touches the floor and the rings are tucked into your armpits, that's it. You've accomplished your goal. Rotate the elbows out as you descend, touch high, and press back up. So that's going to be that for this video. But of course, I cannot let you go without showing you the results you can expect from the movements that I just showed you. And as you can see, the shoulders are growing nicely as well. If you are on the shoulder master plan that I posted a month ago, you know that for a fact. So I'm going to leave you with that. Make sure to give these exercises a try and report back to tell me how it felt. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.